So good morning. We are going to now talk about how to have the graphing calculator conduct hypothesis tests and to calculate confidence intervals. What I'm going to do is first of all input that data for our cell phone radiation example here. I'm going to put in 0.38, enter 0.55, enter 1.54, enter 1.55, enter 0.50, 0.6, 0.92, 0.96, 1.00, 0.86, and 1.46. Okay, get out of there. And then go back in the stat menu, go to tests, and go down to option 2, which is t-test. Now, you have the choice to either use data that we've input, and that's what we're going to do. But if you're just told what X bar is, and you don't have access to the data, then you would go and right arrow over to stats and input your value for X bar. But for our case, we will select data and then move on. Now, where it says mu sub 0 there, that's going to be the hypothesized value for mu. And that comes from the null hypothesis, and we'll put in 1 for this case. And then for list, it's going to ask us what list are we using. Well, I'm using list L1. But if you have a different list, then by all means, put in that list name there. And then next, frequency. Now, if this is normally going to be 1, but if you are using group data, then this is your chance to tell the computer either a number that to multiply each frequency or each value by, or put in a different list that will give you the frequencies. But we're just going to keep that at 1 here. And then you have 3 different alternatives for the inequality that appears in the alternative hypothesis. Which one are we going to use? The middle one? What do you think? For our example, look at our problem. I would say it's going to be the middle one. It's a less than sort of inequality. So go ahead and select that one. Does everybody understand why we're choosing that one? The less one? Okay. And then finally go down to calculate, and there you go. It gives you your test statistic value here, T. It gives you your p-value of 0.319, 1 ... x bar, S sub x, that's the standard deviation for the sample. Okay? And in particular, you got your p-value. So right there, you can decide to reject or null hypothesis, depending on if this p-value is less than or equal to alpha, in which case you would reject. For us, alpha was 0.05, and p-value was 0.3191. Because of the fact that p-value is greater than 0.05, what do we do with the null hypothesis? Well, we would fail to reject. Huh? While I'm still on this, let me go back to the statistics menu and go back over to the test submenu. We'll come back to do the 2 samples, z-test, t-test, the 1 proportion z-test, which, by the way, is what you could use to test claims about the proportion. We'll talk about comparing 2 proportions in Chapter 9. Z interval and T interval. Let's go talk about T interval. When you see these intervals, types of tests, that's where you can have the calculator come up with confidence intervals for you. Let's go ahead and do T interval. Of course, we've got data that we're going to use, but if you were told what X bar is instead, then you could use statistics, which would be this one, in which case you'd have to input X bar and the sample standard deviation. But for us, we're going to go ahead and use data, and the data is going to be in list L1 for this example, but of course you could change that as needed. And frequency is 1. And then confidence level, if you want a 95% confidence, then put 0.95. So you adjust that according to the confidence level, and then go down to calculate, and boom. And then it's going to give you the left and right limits, 0.6541 and 1.2223. And we have our confidence interval right there. So for your homework, wouldn't it have been nice for you to know this for doing your Chapter 7 homework? Of course, I always show you the easy shortcut way after you struggle with the hard calculational method, huh? But that's the way normally you need to know, the concept behind doing it. But once you know that, then you can go ahead and use technology to do the hard work for you. Okay. What else? So I encourage you to go into this menu, this test menu, and play around with these different testing options and interval options for you to discover. That notice there's a Z interval, in which case you would know the population standard deviation. But if you don't know your population standard deviation, then you'd use the T interval and test and doing intervals for the mean. The proportion interval, you'd use the option A for one proportion. In the next chapter, we'll be talking about testing claims about two proportions, comparing them. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about doing the chi-square test for testing claims about the standard deviation and the variance. So we will definitely fire this back up next time. We will also test claims regarding goodness of fit, to test claims that two variables are independent or not, in which case you would use option D. When comparing two variances, an alternative to doing the chi-square test is to do a two-sample F test. So we will eventually, in fact, I think when we talk a little bit about ANOVA, we will talk about the F distribution. Linear regression t-tests, well, we will get to do linear regression soon, and we will talk about testing the claim that there is a linear sort of relationship between two variables. And the T interval for linear regression goes along with that. We could do ANOVA, analysis of variance, using the graphing calculator. All right, so with that said, I'm going to stop this video.